Imagine a world where your every notification, email, and social media ping is fighting for your attention. Now ask yourself, when was the last time you gave your mind completely to a single task without distraction? In today's fast-paced digital age, focus has become the ultimate superpower. And that's exactly what Cal Newport's best-selling book Deep Work, Rules for Focused Success in a Distracted World is all about. Cal Newport, a computer science professor and productivity expert, makes a bold claim: the ability to do deep work is like a rare currency. It's valuable, it's scarce, and it will determine who thrives in the new economy. While most people are drowning in shallow tasks, endless emails, social media scrolling, multitasking, those who can train their minds to focus deeply will rise above the noise and achieve extraordinary results. This audiobook summary will take you through the big ideas of deep work. We'll explore what deep work really is, why it matters more now than ever before, and how you can cultivate it in your own life. Newport doesn't just argue that deep work is important. He gives us practical rules and strategies for building it into our daily routines. Over the next 30 minutes, we'll break down the key principles of the book into clear, actionable lessons. You'll learn the difference between deep and shallow work, discover why embracing boredom can sharpen your focus, understand how quitting social media might supercharge your productivity, and explore ways to cut down on the shallow tasks that hold you back. By the end of this summary, you'll not only understand the power of deep work, you'll know how to practice it. And remember, even just a few hours of deep, focused effort each day can completely change the trajectory of your career, your goals, and your life. So plug in, stay focused, hit the subscribe button, and let's dive into deep work. Part 1. The idea. 1. What is deep work? Cal Newport defines deep work as professional activities performed in a state of distraction-free concentration that push your cognitive capabilities to their limit. In simple terms, deep work means doing the kind of focused, high-value tasks that stretch your mind and produce results that truly matter. It's writing a research paper, designing a business strategy, coding complex software, or crafting a book. Deep work demands your full attention, creativity, and mental energy. Now, let's contrast this with shallow work. Shallow work includes answering routine emails, scrolling through social media, attending unproductive meetings, or making minor edits to a document. These tasks don't require much brainpower and can often be done while distracted. They're easy to replicate, which means they don't add much unique value. Here's the key: most people spend the majority of their time stuck in shallow work, constantly busy, but rarely producing anything that creates real impact. Newport illustrates this idea through examples of history's most accomplished minds. Take Carl Jung, one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century. In the 1920s, Jung retreated to a stone tower he built in the Swiss countryside. There, in solitude and silence, he produced some of his most groundbreaking theories. He understood that only deep, uninterrupted focus could unlock such insights. Or consider Bill Gates. During Microsoft's early years, Gates would regularly take weeks, where he'd isolate himself in a cabin with nothing but books, papers, and his notes. Those periods of concentrated focus gave birth to some of Microsoft's most important innovations. Even in the arts, you see the same pattern. Writers, scientists, inventors, and creators throughout history have produced their greatest works in periods of sustained, distraction-free focus. This is the essence of deep work. A discipline of concentration that produces excellence and separates extraordinary performers from the merely busy. 2. Why deep work is valuable and rare. Now, let's answer the bigger question: why does deep work matter so much today? Newport offers 3 powerful arguments: economic, psychological, and neurological. The economic argument. We live in a world dominated by technology and rapid change. Jobs that require deep expertise, problem-solving, and creativity are in high demand. Yet, at the same time, automation and globalization are wiping out routine, shallow work. Newport makes it clear: in the 21st century economy, there are 2 groups of people who will thrive. 1. Those who can master hard things quickly, like data science, coding, advanced design, or complex problem solving. 2. Those who can produce at an elite level of quality and speed. And both of these skills require the ability to do deep work. If you can't focus deeply, you'll struggle to learn fast and create at a high level. The tragedy is, deep work is becoming increasingly rare. Most people are glued to their phones, drowning in emails, or multitasking themselves into mediocrity. This creates a huge opportunity. If you can cultivate the discipline of deep work, you'll immediately stand out and be far more valuable than your distracted peers. The psychological argument. Deep work is not just valuable for your career, it's also deeply meaningful. Think about it. When do you feel the most satisfied with your work? It's not after a day spent replying to 200 emails. It's after finishing a challenging project, writing a chapter, designing something new, or solving a difficult problem. That sense of progress and craftsmanship creates genuine fulfillment. Newport argues that humans are wired to thrive when we engage in work that stretches us, absorbs us, and leads to mastery. Shallow work leaves us drained and unsatisfied. Deep work leaves us energized and proud. The neurological argument. Finally, there's the science of the brain. When you focus deeply on a challenging task, your brain builds strong connections between neurons. This process, called myelination, makes your brain faster and sharper over time. In other words, deep work literally rewires your brain for focus and skill. But here's the flip side: constant distraction has the opposite effect. If you train your brain to switch from email to social media to text messages every few minutes, you weaken your ability to concentrate. You wire your brain for shallowness. That's why Newport insists, the ability to focus deeply is like a muscle. If you don't train it, you lose it. But if you deliberately strengthen it, it becomes your most powerful tool. To sum up Part 1, deep work is the key to thriving in today's economy. It provides deep psychological satisfaction, and it strengthens your brain. Yet because of our distraction-driven culture, it's also becoming increasingly rare. And that's exactly what makes it such a superpower. Part 2, the rules. Rule number 1. Work deeply. Deep work doesn't happen by accident. In fact, everything about modern life, from constant notifications to workplace interruptions, seems designed to pull us away from focus. That's why Newport insists, if you want to consistently enter deep work, you need to build structure, rituals, and systems around it. Cultivate rituals and routines. The key insight is simple: willpower alone is not enough. If you sit down every day and try to fight against distraction, you'll lose. But if you create a routine, a predictable system, your brain slips more easily into deep work. For example, you might decide that every morning from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m., you'll work in your home office with the doors shut, phone on silent, and coffee in hand. You don't debate with yourself. You don't wait for inspiration. You just follow the ritual. Newport argues that this kind of deliberate setup makes focus automatic. The less friction between you and deep work, the more likely you'll stick with it. Strategies for structuring deep work. Newport outlines 4 different approaches to scheduling deep work. Each works, but which you choose depends on your lifestyle and goals. 1. The monastic approach. This is the most extreme version. You cut yourself off from distractions almost entirely and dedicate nearly all your time to deep work. Think of a monk in a monastery, or a modern example, novelist Neil Stephenson, who avoids social media, rarely answers emails, and spends nearly all his time writing. This approach works best for people whose careers allow them to focus exclusively on high-level thinking or creating. But for most of us, it's unrealistic. 2. The bimodal approach. This strategy splits your life into 2 distinct modes: periods of intense, uninterrupted deep work, followed by periods of everything else. For example, Carl Jung would retreat to his stone tower for weeks at a time to focus, then return to his medical practice and social life. Modern workers might apply this by dedicating 2 days a week to deep work, while using the other days for meetings and shallow tasks. 3. The rhythmic approach. This is one of the most popular methods because it's practical and sustainable. You build deep work into your daily routine, say, 90 minutes every morning, or a 2-hour block after lunch. The power here is rhythm. Over time, your brain learns, this is my deep work time. Like brushing your teeth, it becomes a habit you no longer have to think about. 4. The journalistic approach. Named after journalists who must write under unpredictable schedules, this approach involves seizing deep work whenever possible, even in short bursts. You might have 45 minutes between meetings, and instead of scrolling on your phone, you dive into focused work. This requires discipline and practice, because switching quickly into deep focus isn't easy. But once mastered, it allows you to make progress even in chaotic environments. Tracking and measuring progress. Finally, Newport emphasizes the importance of tracking. If you want to know whether deep work is paying off, you must measure it. Some people log hours of deep work each day in a notebook or spreadsheet. Others set weekly targets, like 10 hours of distraction-free writing. The point isn't to be perfect, it's to build awareness. Over time, you'll begin to see patterns, which times of day produce your best focus, which environments help or hurt, and how much output you're truly generating. This tracking also fuels motivation. When you see that you've clocked 15 or 20 hours of deep work in a week, you realize you're doing more meaningful work than most people achieve in a month. Closing thought on rule number 1. Deep work requires more than good intentions. It requires a system, rituals that eliminate friction, routines that protect your time, and strategies that fit your lifestyle. Whether you adopt the monastic, bimodal, rhythmic, or journalistic approach, the goal is the same: to create regular, distraction-free spaces where your best thinking can emerge. When you treat deep work not as a lucky accident, but as a discipline, you give yourself a massive edge in a world where everyone else is busy, but few are truly productive. Rule number 2: embrace boredom. If rule number 1 was about building structure to help you focus, rule number 2 tackles a deeper problem: our brain's addiction to distraction. We live in a world where the moment we feel the slightest boredom, waiting in line, riding an elevator, sitting through a meeting, we instinctively reach for our phones. Social media, emails, messages, they give us instant stimulation. But this constant switching comes with a cost. Newport argues that to master deep work, you must train your attention. That means learning to resist the urge to switch tasks, even when your mind craves novelty. Attention training: resist the switch. Imagine you're writing an important report. 10 minutes in, you feel stuck on a sentence. Without thinking, you open a new tab and check your email, or scroll Instagram. You tell yourself it's just for a second, but now your focus is broken. This is the core problem. Our brains have been rewired to avoid even the smallest discomfort by seeking distraction. And every time we give in, we weaken our ability to concentrate. Newport suggests reframing this as attention training. The goal is to teach your brain, it's okay to feel bored, it's okay to feel stuck, stay with the task. Just like a muscle, the more you practice resisting the switch, the stronger your focus becomes. Scheduling internet use. One of Newport's most practical suggestions is surprisingly simple: schedule your internet use instead of letting it control you. Instead of bouncing between focused work and random browsing all day, set fixed times for when you'll go online. For example, maybe you decide 10:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. for emails, 2 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. for research or browsing, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. for social media. At first, this feels restrictive. You'll notice yourself itching to check your phone outside those times. But that's the point. It forces your brain to sit with boredom and stay in focus mode. Here's the insight: by putting boundaries around your internet use, you retrain your brain to see distraction as the exception, not the default. Why boredom matters. Now, let's talk about boredom itself. Most of us see boredom as negative. But Newport explains that boredom is actually a sign of brain rest and renewal. Think of your brain like a high-performance engine. It can't run at top speed all the time. When you let your mind wander, when you daydream, walk without headphones, or sit quietly without stimulation, your brain processes information, consolidates memory, and makes creative connections. Some of history's greatest insights came not during periods of intense work, but during downtime. Albert Einstein was famous for taking long, aimless walks where his biggest ideas often surfaced. By learning to embrace boredom instead of escaping it, you give your mind the space it needs to restore itself and prepare for the next round of deep work. Practical exercises. To put this rule into action, Newport suggests a few exercises. 1. Take boredom breaks. Instead of checking your phone when you're waiting in line or commuting, let your mind wander. 2. Resist the itch. When you feel the urge to switch tasks, acknowledge it, but stay where you are. Train your brain to be comfortable in discomfort. 3. Practice focus sprints. Choose a task and give yourself 20 minutes with zero distractions, no phone, no browser tabs. Over time, extend these sprints to 60 or 90 minutes. Closing thought on rule number 2. The ability to focus isn't just about turning distractions off, it's about retraining your brain. By embracing boredom, scheduling your internet use, and resisting the urge to switch tasks, you build the mental endurance that makes deep work possible. In a world that constantly shouts for your attention, the rare person who can sit with boredom and stay focused will always stand out. Rule number 3. Quit social media. If rule number 2 taught us to control our attention, rule number 3 takes it a step further. It asks us to confront one of the biggest drains on focus in the modern world: social media. Cal Newport doesn't argue that social media is pure evil. Instead, he makes a sharper point. Most people use it uncritically, as if every platform deserves their time and attention. But in reality, these tools are designed to hijack your brain, fragment your focus, and keep you hooked, often with very little return. The principle of tool selection. Newport introduces a simple but powerful rule: only use tools that bring you substantial value, and be ruthless about discarding the rest. The problem is, we tend to justify every app by pointing to some small benefit. Twitter keeps me updated on news. Instagram helps me stay connected with friends. LinkedIn might lead to opportunities. But Newport asks us to flip the equation. Instead of asking, what's the benefit of this tool? Ask, does this tool provide enough value to justify the cost of my time, attention, and focus? When you look honestly, the answer is often no. The hours spent scrolling, the constant interruptions, and the subtle rewiring of your brain far outweigh the occasional benefit. Social media as the enemy of focus. Here's the hard truth: social media companies are in the business of selling your attention. Their platforms are engineered to keep you hooked. Endless scrolling, likes, notifications, all carefully designed to exploit your psychology. Every time you open these apps, you're training your brain to expect quick hits of dopamine. Over time, this makes it harder to focus on deep work, because your mind craves the next distraction. Newport points out that many of the world's most productive thinkers, writers, and entrepreneurs either avoid social media altogether or use it with extreme intentionality. They understand that their attention is their most valuable asset, and they guard it fiercely. Practical steps: the 30-day quit test. So how do you put this rule into action? Newport suggests a simple experiment: quit social media for 30 days. Here's how it works. 1. Pick a platform you use regularly, maybe Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, or Twitter. 2. Delete the app, or block access to it, for 30 full days. 3. During that time, pay attention to 2 things. Do you actually miss it? Does your life improve without it? At the end of 30 days, ask yourself, was this tool truly essential? If the answer is no, then you don't need it. If the answer is yes, then bring it back, but with strict boundaries around how and when you use it. Most people are shocked by the results. They realize that life goes on just fine without constant updates, and that the time and mental clarity they gain are far more valuable than whatever they gave up. Closing thought on rule number 3. Quitting social media doesn't mean cutting yourself off from the world. It means reclaiming your attention and using it for things that actually matter. Remember, Every moment you spend scrolling is a moment you're not investing in deep, meaningful work. The question isn't whether social media has some value. The real question is whether it deserves a seat at the table of your life. By applying the principle of tool selection and testing your habits with the 30-day quit experiment, you'll discover just how much focus and freedom you can reclaim. And in a world where everyone else is distracted, your ability to step away may be the very thing that sets you apart. Rule number 4: drain the shallows. We've explored how to work deeply, embrace boredom, and step back from social media. But there's one more obstacle to deep work: the endless tide of shallow tasks that flood our days. Shallow work includes things like answering emails, sitting in unproductive meetings, filling out forms, or dealing with small administrative tasks. These things feel urgent, but they rarely produce lasting value. Cal Newport's message here is blunt: if you want to do deep work, you must drain the shallows. That means cutting shallow work down to the absolute minimum, and aggressively protecting your time for what truly matters. Limit shallow work. Here's the truth: shallow work will always try to expand until it consumes all your time. Think about email. If you let your inbox dictate your day, you'll spend hours reacting to other people's priorities instead of advancing your own. Or consider meetings. Left unchecked, your calendar can fill with back-to-back calls that accomplish almost nothing. Newport suggests treating shallow work like a dangerous leak in your schedule. If you don't control it, it will drown out the space you need for focus. Schedule every minute of your day. One of the most practical strategies Newport recommends is time blocking. Instead of working reactively, you plan your day in advance, every hour, every minute. This doesn't mean you need to be rigid or inflexible. In fact, Newport encourages you to adjust your schedule as the day unfolds. The key is intention. By assigning every block of time a purpose, you make it harder for shallow work to sneak in unnoticed. For example, 8 to 10 a.m. Deep work on writing project. 10 to 10:30 a.m. Email and admin. 10:30 to 12 p.m. Deep work on strategy. 12 o'clock to 1:00 p.m. Lunch and walk. 1 to 2 p.m. Meeting. 2 to 4 p.m. Deep work session. 4 to 5 p.m. Shallow wrap-up tasks. The difference is powerful. When you schedule every minute, you become the designer of your time instead of a passive responder. Say no to non-essential tasks. Here's a hard truth: to protect your deep work, you must get comfortable saying no. No to unnecessary meetings. No to endless collaboration requests. No to tasks that don't align with your priorities. Newport reminds us that being busy is not the same as being productive. Every time you say yes to shallow work, you're saying no to deep work. This doesn't mean you should be rude or unhelpful. It means you need to filter opportunities through a simple question: will this create real value? If not, decline politely and move on. Measure deep versus shallow time weekly. Finally, Newport encourages tracking your deep work hours versus your shallow work hours. At the end of each week, ask yourself, how many hours did I spend in deep, focused work? How many hours did I lose to shallow tasks? This awareness is eye-opening. Many people discover they spend 80 to 90% of their week on shallow work, leaving little time for anything meaningful. By measuring it, you can begin to shift the balance. Even if you only manage to carve out 10 to 15 hours of deep work a week, you'll produce more valuable results than most people do in 40 to 50 hours of shallow busyness. Closing thought on rule number 4. Draining the shallows is about reclaiming your most precious resource: time. By limiting shallow work, scheduling every minute, saying no to the non-essential, and measuring your focus, you'll build a life where deep work is not the exception, but the rule. Remember, shallow work keeps you busy. Deep work changes your future. Conclusion. We've come to the end of our journey through Cal Newport's deep work. Let's pause and bring the big lessons together. At its core, deep work is simple but powerful. It's valuable, the skill that allows you to thrive in today's economy. It's rare. Few people can resist distraction long enough to master it. And it's meaningful, it gives you the satisfaction of doing work that truly matters. Newport showed us that deep work is not a luxury, it's a necessity. If you want to learn faster, create better, and achieve more, you need the discipline of deep, focused effort. Think about it. The habits of deep work can transform your career, your goals, and your life. Rule number 1 taught us to work deeply by building rituals and routines. Rule number 2 reminded us to embrace boredom and retrain our attention. Rule number 3 challenged us to step back from social media and protect our focus. And rule number 4 pushed us to drain the shallows, to cut the busywork that clogs our days. Now, here's the good news. You don't need 8 hours a day of deep work to see results. Even 1 or 2 hours of distraction-free focus, practiced consistently, can change everything. Over time, those hours add up to books written, businesses built, skills mastered, and breakthroughs achieved. So here's your call to action. Choose depth over distraction. Turn off the noise. Guard your focus like it's gold, because it is. Every hour you give to deep work is an investment in your future self. And as you put these lessons into practice, remember this: the ability to focus is the new IQ in the modern world. It's the rare, unfair advantage that will separate those who succeed from those who just stay busy. If this audiobook summary inspired you, share it with a friend who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful audiobook summaries designed to sharpen your mind and fuel your growth. So go out there, carve out your deep work time, and build the life you know you're capable of. The choice is yours. Depth or distraction.